Hey everybody, and welcome to the Startup Savant podcast. I'm your host, Ethan, and this show is about the stories, challenges, and triumphs of fast-scaling startups and the founders who run them. Our guest on the show today is Annafi Wahed. She's one of the co-founders of The Flip Side, an online newsletter and community working to bring smart, concise summaries of political analysis from both conservative and liberal media. And she set her sights pretty darn high. Stated directly from their website, The Flip Side is on a mission to help bridge the gap between liberals and conservatives. And I mean, that's like cats and dogs, fire and water, ice cream and mustard. And we're going to get into that and a whole lot more. But before we do, remember to hit the subscribe button on your podcast player so that we can get this podcast in front of more cool folks just like you. So let's get it started and welcome Annafi to the show. Annafi, how is it going today?
Hi, Ethan. Great to be here. It's a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh, and I hear you're having a beautiful day in Michigan. So yeah, really excited to talk to you and then enjoy the rest of my day.
Absolutely. The sun's out, and now I feel like we've got you here on the video chat. The sun is double out, so I am super excited about this show. So let's start right at the beginning. Can you tell us what Flip Side is?
Yes, The Flip Side right now is a newsletter that goes out 5 days a week. We focus on one topic a day, and we fact check and curate the best arguments from both liberal and conservative media. We're reaching 250,000 people via the newsletter, and we just launched a new platform, still very much in MVP stage. But the idea of the new platform is that it's a salon to Twitter's town square. So instead of the cacophony of clickbait headlines and trolling you see, we are actually designing the algorithm, user incentives, the business model, everything to highlight bipartisanship and compromise.
That's a pretty big job here in this country, and I'm sure the rest of the world as well.
Yes, unfortunately, polarization is a problem, not just in the U.S., but in a lot of different countries. We're seeing, the effects of cable news and social media and what it does to societies over time. So yes, we're working on a very exciting problem, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. So this question may be a bit vague or shallow, but I think you can probably give me a good answer. What about this product is helping to solve the issue of divisiveness as a whole?
Great question. I think the best way I can describe it is we're trying to get America back on the same page, literally, right? So right now you have folks, half the country is reading New York Times, watching CNN. The other half is watching Fox News, reading National Review or the Wall Street Journal. And we are just literally not on the same page until we're faced with, the worst Twitter thread that's gone viral, or maybe we see our uncle at Thanksgiving once a year when he, it is giving us talking points we haven't heard outside of, late night TV or something, right? And so our goal is to create that shared news source, that shared reality for liberals, conservatives, moderates, the apolitical, literally get America on the same page.
It's a strong goal, strong mission. I think we definitely need it. And we're going to get a lot deeper into that and kind of the approaches and the different products that you've got here in a little while. But first, can you tell us how'd you get into this?
Oh my gosh, where do I begin? So I spent 4 years in finance after college, mostly because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I had student loans, I was a high achiever, and I didn't go to medical school or law school. I went straight into the workforce. And so, I entered finance. I'm a CFA charter holder, and it was the summer of 2016 when I had just gotten that charter. And I was up for manager at Ernst & Young, and I realized I was climbing the wrong mountain. And so somewhat on a whim, I guess you could call it a quarter life crisis, I gave my 2 weeks notice and went to New Hampshire to knock on doors for Hillary Clinton the last 4 months of the 2016 cycle. I mostly just wanted to play my small part in helping elect the first female president. Things did not work out that way. And I think I started Flip Side, honestly, as a coping mechanism, right? After the election, I was reading so much conservative news and talking to every Republican, conservative, Bernie supporters, anyone I could think of to help me make sense of how it led to such a surprise election result in 2016. Along the way, I found my co-founder, who's a staunch conservative. We grew our readership. I was published in the Wall Street Journal. Next thing I know, I'm on Fox and Friends. I'm on the Young Turks. And it was just snowballing. And I still had gotten a different day job after Ernst & Young. And it was really when we started to get emails from our readers. We only had, 5,000, 10,000 at that point, who said, hey, I've been sharing the flip side with all my friends. Are you raising? Hey, what is your 5-year plan? And I said, I don't even have a 5-day plan. So it was really recognizing that we were fulfilling this really important need. And I was looking around and no one else was doing what we were doing. And so that's how the newsletter took off. And over time, we were hearing from our readers. Again, we're reacting to the feedback, addressing the need. We were hearing from our readers, hey, I love getting the flip side in my inbox each morning. I really feel like I'm getting a nuanced viewpoint. I don't feel like tearing my hair out. But then I go back to my Facebook groups. I go back to Twitter, and I am back in the same echo chamber, the same fighting matches, right? Even when Facebook and Twitter show you the opposite sides, it's the worst of the opposite sides, right? Not the best. And so we said, okay, well, how do we fix that problem? And they kept asking us, is there an online community where I can share my thoughts and not be yelled at or have a nuanced conversation? And there really wasn't anything that we could find. Reddit has a few subreddits that might be helpful, that address certain topics well. But we really felt like there wasn't anyone working on this problem. And thus our new forum was born.
So you said during that time, this was early days, you still had a day job and you already had 5,000 to 10,000 readers. And I don't know what your readership is now, and I'll ask you that in just a second. But that already sounds like quite a few people to have on a list for something that is essentially a side project or a passion project. How did you go from 0 to 10, and then assuming that those were maybe friends and family and that sort of thing, how did you break out of that friends and family group to go from 10 to 10,000?
Great question. So yes, the first newsletter went out to 16 of my friends and family. I called them one by one and I said, hey, you keep bugging me about what went wrong in the election. I only have so many answers. I'm working with someone who's, from the other side. Truly, he has a MAGA hat and everything, right? And the two of us are working to make sense of it all. Can I add you to the new newsletter, right? And so it was, my best friend, my cousin, my former coworkers who might have just pitied me. Who knows? But it was those 16 people who then started to share it with their friends and their families and their coworkers. We grew to about 500, 600 just via word of mouth. And in the meantime, I just wanted to go out and listen to people, right? Whether it was Republicans who were trying to explain, how Trump won, or liberals who were still devastated and still coping, or folks in media, right? I have never done this before. I don't have a background in media. So I'm going to tons of different networking events. And I had actually, the week before this event, I had just gone to CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference. And a week later, I am at a media event and happened to be standing next to 𝗔𝗯ance, who is on the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. He thought it was amazing that I had worked for Clinton and then went to attend CPAC. And he said, are you writing about it? I fibbed. And I said, of course I am. And he gave me his card. That night, I penned an op-ed and sent it to him in the wee hours at 4 a.m. 3 hours later, he wrote back, we'll take it. And I was very confused. Take it where? And next thing I know, I'm published in the Wall Street Journal. And so we went overnight from having 500 subscribers to 5,000 because, the flip side hyperlink was at the bottom of my profile. So that really gave us, that sort of launch point. And obviously, to a certain extent, the fact that I happened to be standing next to him and he happened to be in a good mood, et cetera, was one of the driving factors. But it's also important to note how many events I had gone to, how many people I had spoken to, that I had gone to CPAC for 3 days and spent all that time talking to so many folks. So when I'm, talking to early startup founders, I say you have to create your own luck. You have to let luck find you.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I've used the term manufactured serendipity for this.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So going to these events, you're increasing your luck surface area. Your opportunity to get lucky goes way up just putting yourself out there. That's an awesome story. And I think that this is something that, founders from, it doesn't have to just be a publishing type of situation or a newsletter. It can be really any type of business where if you can get in front of the right person who holds the keys to, your next step or your next group of clients or whatever, do everything you can to put yourself in any situation to get in front of those people.
Yes, as someone who receives lots of cold DMs, emails now, right, I recognize, this is a great project you're working on. I'm happy to help you. I would never have found them if they had not reached out to me. So you have to put yourself out there and you have to send that cold request, DM, email, right? And continue to increase that surface area where you can get lucky. Exactly.
Absolutely. So how many readers are you up to now?
We're at 250,000.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah. And then, so I'm assuming that from that point, it just kind of becomes a flywheel where you keep making good content and people keep sharing it and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. We have a referral program. So if you make 5 referrals, you get stickers. If you make 20, you get a, bear mug with our logo and things on it. It's been such a huge hit. We have easily, 30,000 plus subscribers who came from the referral links alone, and then earned media, doing great podcasts like this. And also we've, run some paid ads during the election cycle and the COVID pandemic. And yes, exactly. There are so many different things now working to keep that snowball moving.
Let's jump down into that referral program a little bit. This is something that we've seen. It's pretty common in the newsletter space. All sorts of the newsletters like the Skim and Morning Brew and the Hustle and all that good stuff have these kind of ambassador programs that seem to be a great way to incentivize sharing and kind of build in that network effect into, this product, which is a fairly simple product. I mean, it's not easy, but simple. It's an email that gets sent out. So what have you discovered for the things that really work well for this referral program? And what are some of the things where you've tried them and you're like, I'm not going to do that anymore?
Yeah, so we thought long and hard about what the incentives should be. On the one hand, we have a lot of, sort of professionals, right? Managers at big tech firms or, political leaders and things like that. So we thought, will they really care about stickers? Turns out they do. Everybody loves stickers. That is a winner across the board, regardless of age, regardless of, profession, whatever. Everyone loves the stickers. I think we also lucked out. We had a wonderful marketing agency. By the way, another thing a bootstrap founder should not be afraid to do is ask for free help. So even while we were still bootstrapped, we had a wonderful marketing agency who designed our logo, who designed our bear mascot. And so because we had those assets already, we had people asking us, hey, are you selling any swag? I would love to show off my, flip side readership in some ways. So the mugs are also a big hit because especially on Zoom, if you have a bear mug, someone will ask you, what is it that you're holding, right? Some things we tried that didn't work is we thought, what if we had, someone come in and do a webinar about our process and the sort of the behind the scenes peek. And some people, our premium subscribers, we also offer premium subscription now. We're really interested in that. But the other folks said, nope, I like the 5-minute read you give me. I don't want to look behind the scenes. This is all I want, right? So that didn't work out so well, at least when we had, I think at that point, only 50,000 subscribers. So we might try it again now. Some other things, we thought about hosting in-person events. But again, people said, I don't know if I want to sit face-to-face with a Clinton supporter or Trump supporter, right, for an hour. So there was hesitancy there. So we nixed that idea as well. I think we're not afraid to ask our readers what they want, and they're very vocal in telling us, what they want. So we misstep in terms of we have wrong hypotheses, but we find out pretty quickly, right? So we just keep coming up with new things and seeing where it goes.
So you've got these incentives. You've got you've got the swag, you've got the stickers, you've got this other stuff, and that's all well and good. But it seems like you've created something that works on kind of a deeper level. It seems like you've created a sense of belonging. How would you say that you've accomplished that?
I think what we hear from a lot of folks is when I open, a cable news, or when I open Twitter or Facebook, I feel like I am going crazy because, again, it's always the loudest, most extreme voices that are being heard on these platforms, on these TV channels, right? Whether it's, Rachel Maddow or Sean Hannity, right? You have these screaming heads, these talking heads that are giving you sort of a very biased and skewed perspective. We, again, are focused on bringing you the best versions of both sides. And so we hear a lot of people say, oh my gosh, this is my favorite feedback of all time. Someone once wrote, "You are the only liberal rag I can stand to read." And I just thought that should be our tagline. Like, we're done here, right? Like, we've done our job. And similarly, we hear the same from the other side, right? And so we are helping people understand, again, people that they're close to, whether it's their neighbor, it's their coworker, it's a family member, it's their kid who comes back from college with all these, new ideas that they're not familiar with. Whatever it is, I think that sense of, okay, I feel better connected to this person, or I feel better connected to the rest of America even, right? And that's very deep. So we also have a lot of folks who just forward our newsletter each morning. And sometimes they accidentally email us, and it's great because we get to, see how they actually are referring to us. They say things like, "This is a breath of fresh air," or, "Oh, stop subscribing to 50 different newsletters. Just, subscribe to Flipside instead." So it's that mix of, okay, we're making politics sane again and also saving you time. It's one topic a day. It's 5 minutes. Very doable for the average person.
Absolutely. And so do you think that this has replaced media, like replaced news intake for most of your subscribers? Or do you think that it's kind of works alongside of, they're going to read this, then they're going to turn on CNN, or then they're going to turn on Fox News?
So different people have different needs. We're reaching 250,000 people. So some people, they can't stand any news and commentary that is, highly partisan. And so they read just the headlines, maybe from Axios, or maybe, whatever the breaking news alert sends them. And then they read the flip side, and then they go about their day. But we also have the news junkie that is clicking on every article we're linking to because they want to read all of it, and they want more. They want 3 newsletters a day on 3 different topics and in-depth analysis, et cetera, et cetera. So we're actually now in the process of figuring out, okay, where do we go from here? Because we have such a diverse readership. Our readers are all across 50 states, across the political spectrum, everything from high school students all the way up to retirees. We get emails, from folks who are saying, "I'm trying to print out your newsletter and it's coming out funny." And we said, "Oh, we haven't formatted it to be, easily printable. We didn't think anyone would be doing that," right? Amazing problems to have. So trying to figure out, okay, how could we meet all these different people's needs at the same time? We're curators, so we're not afraid to say, "Oh, hey, if you want an in-depth analysis, go here, go here." And that's what we're doing at the forum as well. We want to create, again, that shared space where people can come together, whether it's, just reading the newsletter or participating in our new forum. We want them to know that there is still sanity out there.
So let's jump back out to the business for a second. When it was 5 to 10,000, you still had a job. Now that it's 250,000, you have, removed that job, and now you're working on this full time. What was the point? Where was the separation when you were like, all right, I can't do it anymore. I have to just go work on the flip side, and that's it?
Frankly, my roommates had an intervention. I was not sleeping. I was not doing my chores. I was overall just a huge crank. And they said, okay, you gotta do something, pick a lane. So I did. I think, again, at that point, we had, 20,000 subscribers. So it was starting to feel real, right? Again, we hadn't spent a dime. It was just word of mouth, earned media. We had Angie, who's that marketing agency I mentioned, who was reaching out, doing all this work for us. I already had a co-founder who was devoting so much time. There were so many people who wanted to get involved, and I just thought, I got to see this through. So it was just that demand and the fact that I only have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. We all only have just those 24 hours. And if we can't spend them right, then that's going to dictate what our lives look like. So was the newsletter making any revenue at that time?
Well, nope, not a dime. And so I sent a letter to our subscribers, our 20,000 or so. Hey, I just quit my day job. Would be great if we could get some funding. And lo and behold, one of our subscribers ended up becoming our pre-seed investor. And, he invested $500,000 that really allowed me and my co-founder to pursue this full time. Help it get to the next level. We just brought on a third co-founder, CTO, to build a new platform that I'm talking about. So it was really the fact that he had been a Flipside subscriber for months. We had mutual connections. And after 3 phone calls, he said, I'm sold, let's do this.
So building this community, building this group of people who are all interested in, a similar thing really kind of led to an explosion of activity, which leads to an explosion of growth. That's super cool to see. And so now you're building on top of this community. You're building this forum. What was there any way that your users were able to interact with each other before the forum? Was there like a Facebook group or any other sort of online, like a Reddit, subreddit, whatever?
We have, I think, 23,000 followers on Instagram. We have a Facebook page. We have, a Twitter handle, etc. And, we have people commenting on it all the time, but we didn't want to engage, right? Because we knew that it was just going to lead to sort of a fighting match. We didn't really like the moderation tools that Twitter and Facebook provided. And we kept thinking, okay, how can this be better? So it was really meeting our own needs as online moderators ourselves to say, oh my gosh, what if we had an algorithm that did this? Or what if we had vote buttons that said helpful, unhelpful, agree, disagree, not just like or, angry emoji. I don't know what Facebook algorithm is doing today, but the last time it was revealed that the angry emoji is given 5 times the weight of a like button.
Oh, geez.
So just that alone should tell you where Facebook priorities are. And we wanted something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let's talk about that for just a second, and then we can get into the forum. But it seems like there are a couple of different groups of people. There are the folks who want to have a reasonable conversation. They want to learn about the other side. It's freaking difficult to do it because that doesn't seem like there is anything out there that isn't obviously biased or that isn't hiding some bias.
Yes.
And so you've got the people that really want, this new format of news that they can trust that isn't trying to just like make their day worse. But then you've got the other people who are addicted to outrage, who just go on the internet so that they can feel mad, probably just so that they can feel something. But is the flip side trying to solve for both of those groups of people, or is it right now just trying to hit the folks that like want to learn, or maybe the other way?
So the business case we make to investors is we're going after the low-hanging fruit, right? There is an exhausted majority, right? Over half the country. That would be your independents, your moderates, your centrists, your slightly left, slightly right, or what have you. There's a huge population of Americans that are just fed up with the level of polarization that's out there. They just want, again, some rational discussion. They don't want a revolution in either direction, right? So that's the low-hanging fruit we're going after. In terms of the trolls and the outrage, I will say, I was a psychology major in undergrad. Humans respond extremely well to incentives, right? So if Facebook is prioritizing the angry emoji 5 times as much as the like button, guess what you're going to post, right? And so we thought long and hard about what our design and framework should be. So when you first sign on to the Flipside forum, we ask you, do you lean left, do you lean right? And that's because we are actively prioritizing via the algorithm, via the numerical weights we put, right? Posts that are getting helpful votes from both sides. So a post that has only 4 votes quote, helpful votes, but 2 from each side will be ranked higher than a post that has 10 votes all from one side. The vote combinations interact in interesting ways. So if you, Ethan, vote on a post that it's both helpful and you disagree with it, that's a strong indication it must be a thoughtful post. So that gets 4 times the weight. That's the exact opposite of the angry emoji weight that the Facebook algorithm gives. It's also open to premium members only. We are thinking about offering a free trial option, but we'll do so in sort of staggered way. We won't let in our whole audience at once. We really think if we design these incentives in such a way that people get a dopamine hit from being reasonable, they will start being reasonable.
So this forum, is it kind of based around, news stories that drop, and then does it kind of feel like a better moderated comment section, or is it more like let's call it like a traditional social media where one person makes a post that doesn't necessarily need to reference an article, and then people can go on and comment and interact with that post?
For now, it looks like, Reddit. So each discussion thread is the topic of the day that we covered in the newsletter. So right now, only the Flipside team members can open a new discussion thread based on the topic of the day, so that we can give you that fact-check curated commentary before you can post or read people's thoughts, right? Again, we have to get America on the same page. Before you can start or participate in a conversation, you have to read, at least, scroll through our fact-check commentary. That's the dream, right? Start on the same page and go from there. Right now, we don't know how we feel about members being able to open a thread or start a discussion about an esoteric topic that the moderation team hasn't done research on yet, right? So we really take the approach of less is more, quality over quantity.
Are you finding that your users are mostly well behaved, or do you get some folks in there who are like turd in the punch bowl?
We have folks who may or may write incorrect things, or the things that might be stated differently if someone were, to rewrite it, if they were a speechwriter or something. But no, for the most part, people have been very well behaved so far. We're seeing daily engagement. We're seeing folks asking for all kinds of features. We're really crowdsourcing the whole build of this. We have a huge triage list of things people want. Again, it's the incentives, right? There's no need for trolling, because that's going to put you at the bottom of the feed, right? You don't want to be at the bottom of the feed. You want your post to be seen. And so it behooves you to want to get helpful votes from both sides, even if the other side still disagrees with you, And I think the other thing we're excited about is we're soon launching something called Ambassador of the Week badge. If you earn the most number of helpful votes from the other side, you will earn that badge. That will automatically give your post a boost for the next 2 weeks. And people will be able to accumulate points over time, right? So that's something else we're really excited about. And our members know that that's down the line. So I think they're gearing up to be the best advocates for their side.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Always going back to those incentives. I love it.
Exactly.
So what is and maybe this is different for everybody, but personally, when I read a news article, I don't feel my thumbs twitching like I need to make a comment about it. What is it that drives the need for this discourse around events?
Great question. We are actually helping with that by adding prompts of our own. So now if you open the newsletter, you will see our fact-check curated summary from both sides, and then you'll see prompts for discussion, right? So with the spy balloon incident, we asked, do you think the U.S. government acted prudently? What could they have done differently? How do you think they're handling the media situation? So by asking those questions, we're prompting people to think and say, oh, I do have thoughts I want to share. The other thing is, one of the biggest complaints we get is that our digest is too short, right? There's a lot of things to say about the complexity of U.S.-China relations that is not going to be covered in a five-minute newsletter. And so we have a lot of people itching to add more to the conversation, more to what we have already said. They said, oh, here's another great article you might have missed, or, oh, let's refer back to, the incident from 2001, et cetera. So a lot of folks are looking to share information or looking to share their thoughts or looking to say, oh, hey, here's how I found out about the spy balloon and this was my reaction, right? So unfortunately, actually, there's a lot of news going on and then people have a lot of thoughts and feelings they want to share. Sometimes we wish the news cycle would be slower, but
yeah. Well, we've got 24 hours worth of news to fill every day and sell some commercials. So there's going to be news all the time.
Exactly.
So you've got editors on your team who are searching through all of these different articles and curating the best parts of each, the parts that make the most sense, the parts that are obviously factually accurate. What I'm assuming that you started this, like you were the one who was doing all this. And how many of these editors do you have now?
So it's still just me and my co-founder full-time on the editorial team. And then we have a staff of contributors who are working 1 or 2 days a week. There are about 5 right now.
Okay. And how are you ensuring, because you can see inside your own head and obviously you have, massive trust with your co-founder, but how are you vetting these people? How are you ensuring that what they're bringing isn't in any way bias?
Great question. And so we're actually trying to change the conversation around bias. Not all bias is bad, right? We are who we are. We are humans. We are colored by our life experience, our profession, our environment, et cetera, et cetera. We are not nonpartisan. We're not even bipartisan. We are equally partisan. So I bring my liberal bias to the team. My conservative co-founder brings his bias to the team. And so we vet people who are both comfortable in knowing where they stand and very open-minded to hearing different perspectives, right? And so our Slack channel is always on fire because just even something as simple as topic selection is hard and is bias in and of itself, right? So for the first 2 years of the Trump presidency, for example, the conservative side always wanted to cover the booming economy, and the liberal side always wanted to cover the Mueller investigation, right? What choices we make about topic selection gets the conversation going in a certain direction. And so it's very important that we have people from all across the political spectrum on the team. And so that's the first thing we check. And the other thing is really, can they cite authors from the other side that they really like and enjoy, right? Are they open to having their viewpoints not questioned in a sort of, defend your position way, but just open to that dialogue? So I think that's something we really care about deeply, because if that's not what you're about, you're not going to like being on our Slack channel.
Gotcha. So you're still very intimately involved with all of the content that goes forward, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. So you kind of currently act as the filter to make sure that, here's editor Jerry. He does a great job 95% of the time, but every once in a while you got to watch Jerry.
Exactly. So we make it such that there is at least one left-leaning and one right-leaning eye, at least one from each side going into the final draft before we hit publish.
That makes sense to me. That seems like because that was my next line of questioning was, how does this work at scale? Once you can no longer involve yourself in the, as the filter that everything moves through. How do you continue to ensure that all of your editors stay unbiased? Or not unbiased, equally biased. Yes, thank you.
Exactly. There you go. Yep, that's how we do it, right? So it's that first step. Okay, you have to have that tension there because that's how we produce the best work. They actually did a study of Wikipedia articles and they found that politically diverse editors ended up creating better content, more, in-depth content because they were pushing each other to be better. And that's our whole philosophy.
So going back to incentives, how are you going to ensure that the incentives that you are putting forward are always greater than the possible incentives that these editors may be receiving from third party actors? And let me give you an example. So like some of these large large publishing companies who understand that they kind of hold the keys to a platform. And if they are approached by a company or an individual who says, this is the message I want to get across, and I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, type of thing. How do you think about ensuring that your editorial staff stays on the up and up?
That's a very interesting question, right? Again, my co-founder and I are still very hands-on, right? So there's very rarely does a newsletter go out that he or I have not seen. Whether it's the beginning draft or the ending draft, right? Our hands are still very much in it. The other thing I will say is, again, our open rates are in the high 30s. We have a very engaged audience. And so we get emails every morning, right? As soon as the newsletter goes out at 6 a.m. with feedback. And so one way we measure how we're doing is that feedback. The feedback is usually, oh, you forgot this article, or you didn't include this, or this, that, and the other thing. If we start to get, feedback that we're leaning one way or the other, we take that very seriously. We've worked hard to make sure our readership is very politically diverse. And so if everyone is saying the same thing, that means we're screwing something up. Rather than, at least a handful of folks get angry with us, every week because they think we're leaning one way or the other. But that's healthy engagement versus, if 50 people all email us to say XYZ. And so I think that real-time feedback is very important. We also had, not just the everyday consumer, but New York Times reporters and Wall Street Journal reporters and folks who are, leading advocacy organizations and folks who work in Congress and state offices all reading the flip side. And so they're very engaged and they will trust us. Let us know if we screwed up.
It's good to have the watchful eye of your
yes,
lovely constituency aside you. All right, let's jump back into the business side a little bit. How at this point, I know you've got the premium model.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the current business model? Is there any advertising or any other business models alongside that?
We also have advertisements, yes. So the premium model is for people who want to participate in the forum, who want to get extra in-depth content on the weekends. We also have a cartoonist for the extra in-depth contest.
Nice.
Content. He is amazing. Oh my God, so talented. Someday we're going to make a coffee table book of just his cartoons. So that's the premium membership. And we also have advertisements for the free newsletter. Now, it's really funny. We get a lot of folks who want to put partisan ads in our newsletters that we have to say no to. So we are making, sort of business sacrifice for our social mission, right? If, for example, this hasn't happened, so I'm giving you the extreme cases. But if, say, Nike or My Pillow were to want to run an ad with Flipside, we would say no. And obviously, any kind of advocacy organization that it has a partisan leaning. And so we stick to very sort of, boring ads. A few times we have done things that we did not think were partisan that our readers, again, told us was. Or, we try things and we take the feedback and we say, you know what? Okay, we hear you and we're not, going to do this anymore. So that's a learning process. Moving forward, we want to focus more on that premium membership and have the free newsletter act as sort of a funnel to get people more engaged and, convert eventually to premium membership.
That makes sense. So you've got the revenue now from those two sources. Yep. You had the $500,000 of funding before. Are you planning on taking any more funding?
We are raising a new round. Actually, we've raised $400,000 of new funding so far. $275,000 came from our subscribers. We actually crowdfunded through the WeFunder platform, and again, these are folks who are highly engaged, affluent, they want to see us succeed. And then the remaining 125 came from 2 new angel investors. That gives us, 12 months runway. We're really excited to be able to, again, just focus on continuing to build. 2023 is the year to build, and 2024, we will raise a proper Series A and really, make our sort of big splash on the national stage in tandem with the presidential election cycle.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be something where people are going to need some news they can trust.
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right. So going back to scale, when do you think that you will be able to kind of pull yourself a little bit back from working in the business and start spending more of your time working on the business?
Great question. I think we're struggling with that right now just because we have such a great system set up that's working really well, but I need to devote more time to meeting with investors and meeting with, the marketing person that we are bringing on, and meeting with going to conferences, what have you, right? So I think this year, especially because the forum just launched and it's at such an early stage, I still need to be very hands-on to make sure that we're guiding, the build in a sort of prudent way. Again, we have so many people asking us for 50 different features. We really need to prioritize and things like that. Hopefully, when we raise a proper Series A round in 2024, I'll be able to take a step back and sort of focus more on strategy. We really think that, especially with Facebook pivoting in different directions and Twitter's new leadership, people are starting to recognize that the era of horizontal media platforms is ending, right? So look, I just talked about the evils of Mark Zuckerberg's, world, and I can go on and on about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's really hard to design an online platform that will meet the needs of civic dialogue groups and your D&D and your engagement photos and your birthday announcement and, your soccer team meetup, right? So we are seeing now platforms being built exclusively for, say, book clubs or your D&D meeting or your neighborhood watch group or people who just want to talk about stocks. The future is vertical. The future is niche. We want to be at the forefront of the civic dialogue conversations. That's what we're laser focused on, and we can build features that will optimize specifically for our needs, whereas Facebook and Twitter could never do that because they have too many users and communities to serve.
So how are you going to take this community that you've got from a niche community to a mainstream community, to where the flip side is just as known as Facebook or CNN or Fox News or any of these things?
Oh my gosh, the $1 billion question. I don't know yet is the long and short answer, right? We are so excited about this new funding. We know where our current subscribers are coming from, right? These are, again, the centrists, the moderates. We are going to be, engaging more with the civic dialogue and political advocacy organizations and schools and colleges and things like that. But in terms of going mainstream, that's an unanswered question, right? We have a few sort of high-ranking folks in the political space, but if we want to create something different, we can't, go back to the same old ways. So we're still figuring out, okay, what does it mean to go viral when our goal is not to go viral?
Right.
We're also thinking about changing the referral program, actually, bringing back some of the old ideas we had tried that didn't quite work. Because I think the best, especially in this age of, saturated media, the best referral comes from a personal friend. So how do we make that flywheel, even stronger? For the forum, we're thinking about creating, closed forums. So you, Ethan, would be able to create a closed space for just your friends, or a teacher would be able to create a space for just their students, or congressman would be able to create a space just for their constituents on their mailing list with a unique link. So that could be another way where we say, hey, you can use our fact-check curated commentary, our moderation tools, our platform to have a conversation with your members, your students, your friends, etc., in a way that you are not able to in Facebook groups. So the premium membership could allow you to open a closed forum with up to, say, 50 people for free before you get into the next tier. All of these are ideas that we have on the table right now.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's like you want to make sure, if I have my own private forum here, I want to make sure I'm bringing in the voices that are going to keep things, what did we say, equally biased? Keep things equally biased, but I only want to hear from this particular group of people. I think that's really cool. That's a really good direction to test out. I really like that.
I'm glad. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It could also be the moderation tools are meant to be sort of elastic, right? So they can change. So if it's, all Democrats, you can make it so that the helpful buttons are split between center left and far left, and or center right and far right. So you can tweak our moderation tools as needed, because there's plenty of trolling within each party as well. So unfortunately, where we see a lot of opportunity to just again, if the end goal is to lower friction, we can lower friction between the parties, among the parties. There's so many ways that we can be helpful.
So I know we've talked about several things that are going to be attempted, tried, and all that good stuff. Is there anything big on the horizon for the flip side here in the next year or so?
So many things that I can't talk about yet.
Oh, no.
And is we have a Johns Hopkins researcher, and we are co-applying for a grant with Stanford where we will allow people to enter into the forum for a 3-month free period. And there will be a control and experimental group. We're going to test one of our many hypotheses around how to decrease polarization and do semantic analysis, and see how the interactions go to see if our forum and our intervention is actually, scientifically significant in terms of decreasing polarization. So getting that, research study and showing and proving that our methods work will be really valuable, and I think very attractive to investors as well.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. All right. So here's the question that we ask all of our founders, and that is, could you please give us your best advice, your number one piece of advice for early stage startup founders?
You will learn faster by doing than, reading 100 books, right? Like Lean Startup, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. There are a whole bunch of books you're supposed to read, and you should. But also just jump in, send that newsletter to 16 people, send that cold email, cold DM, what have you. You just have to do things, try things, put yourself out there. It's going to be really hard. And don't be afraid to ask for help, right? I'm not shy at all about asking people to, pitch in for free or work for Sweat Equity. Our CTO got on the payroll literally 2 weeks ago. He's been working on Sweat Equity for 6 months. He built the platform from the ground up. Just, you can have incredible amounts of effort put in if you continually put yourself and your vision and what you're working toward out there, right? You have to allow the people who are looking for you to find you, if that makes sense.
That is great advice. That is awesome advice. I love it. Thank you very much for bringing that on. We have just one more question for you, and that is, where can people find you online, and how can people support the flip side?
Great. For now, we would love to reach more people, right? So if you go to 𝗘�57.io, you can subscribe to our newsletter. We work really hard to keep it short and sweet. We do not spam you. It's just 1 email a day. And I myself am active on Twitter, LinkedIn. So Annafi Wahed. You can find me on all the socials. I'm the only Annafi Wahed on the internet practically, so it won't be hard to find me. Our website again is 𝗘�57.io.
Well, thank you, Annafi, for coming onto the show. This has been so much fun. Folks listening, you can find everything we talked about today, all the links, all the socials, all of everything on the show notes, and that will be over at startupsavant.com/podcast. Annafi, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we jump out?
No, I think, one thing I didn't say is I think so many people have already disconnected from politics, from hoping that things might get better, that Congress might be functional again. And I think that's the wrong way. We have to lean in. As some might say, we have to create the future we want. Don't give up on politics yet. There's a lot of good that can be done when we come together. And the flip side is creating a community, a platform to make that happen.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Startup Savant podcast. Thanks for joining us. Remember, the best way to show us some love is by rating and reviewing the podcast. Apple Podcasts or Spotify are the best places to leave those reviews, so give them a look. We'll be back next week with another awesome founder, and until then, go build something beautiful.
The Startup Savant podcast is produced by 𝗃𝗃.